Welcome to the Scale Up Valley podcast, where we bring the best founders and investors to help you scale your business from 1 million to 1 trillion. Today's guest is a very special one. I've been in touch with him for a very long time, and I've been trying to have him on the show also for a long time, and I'm super happy that we finally were able to make it. I'm sure that you will really enjoy. He's a very wise and very experienced person that I have the luxury to tap in. His name is Michael Sidler, the co-founding partner at Redalpine. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Mike. I'm flattered, and I'm a little bit blushing when you say wise.
So the audience will understand what I'm talking about because I've spent some hours with you so far over the years. Not all at the same time, but from time to time we were speaking, and I'm sure that people will really enjoy what you have to share and the impact that you are making. So let's get to know more about you for the ones who didn't have the luxury that I have to be in touch with you. Who is Michael?
Michael, I mean, an interesting question there. When I go through my CV, basically my passion early on was biology, molecular biology. I followed, typically in my career, I have really a couple of turns, and I followed my passion mostly. So I decided to go to study biology. I did that. I did a PhD eventually in the field of molecular biology, more precisely with plants. Nevertheless, I also learned that I have a very broad field of interest, and it's probably a little bit too introvert to stay in a lab and to research a couple of genes. And so I had the fantastic opportunity to join the Boston Consulting Group in 1998 as a rookie. I had no clue, and I received a fantastic education on the job as well. Really an incredibly incredible experience, I have to say. I've never learned as much as fast in my life before and afterwards. That was during the dot-com bubble. So I spent 5 years with the BCG from 98 to 2003. I invested my money into startups, into tech companies during the bubble. I made a lot of money, and then I lost it all at the end of the bubble. Wow. That didn't change my fascination for tech, disruption, startups, entrepreneurship at all. I left BCG after 5 years, and I joined a biotech startup, diagnostic startup in Switzerland. I kept doing angel investments. I did actually kind of venture investments, corporate venturing for that startup company, because that made really a lot of money with one product. And I invested the product to acquire other companies, parts of companies, or also to finance startups. So that's basically where I got more and more into the field. And by doing angel investments, I came together with other people in the angel field, and we decided, and that is then just the leading to the foundation of Redalpine. We observed there is so much innovation in Europe, and it's getting so poorly commercialized. We decided to change that, and that's why we founded Redalpine as a professional VC in 2006, and since then have been investing in European seed and early stage startups in a very wide variety, from fintech to biotech.
Sounds amazing. And in 2016 was 2006 was kind of even before the big wave started in the beginning of the 2012, 2013. That's when things started to accelerate in the European ecosystem. So you have been here not since the beginning, before the beginning of the wave. That's really impressive. And for the ones who also want to know more about Redalpine, what is your current thesis? What is more important to you in terms of your portfolio at the moment? Any companies that you would like to highlight from your portfolio?
Yeah, all the companies are listed on our website, so go and check it out. The thesis, the most important investment criteria by far is the quality of the founding team. We come over and over to the same conclusion again. Obviously, the tech has to be good, quite clearly. The market has to be there. The business model has to be very scalable. That's all clear. Nevertheless, the big difference, we would say, the future success depends to 60 to 70% on the quality of the founding team. That's super important. Current companies that are well known and that are thriving, obviously, I mean, it's a classical one, but it's N26. That was one of our first investments, or we have invested in the first round there. And another one is TaxFix, for example.
Yep.
Those are a couple of examples.
Right.
And currently, we really like the convergence of software and health or life science, health tech. So everything in the field of digital health, digital therapeutics, also food technology, and the likes. That's really a sweet spot that we are seeing a lot and doing a lot right now.
Sounds amazing. And you said that Redalpine started with this passion for to kind of leverage the innovation that Europe was creating, but was not able to commercialize and to scale it. Can you please share a little bit more about what has been your views about the evolution since you started in 2006, and even before you were doing angel investment, so you were even connected with the ecosystem even before you started Redalpine. What has been the evolution? Because I think that you have a unique angle about what were the different decades of evolution of the European ecosystem in terms of venture capital and technology and innovation.
Yeah, Europe has come a very long way. There has been a huge maturation process that has happened over the last, let's say, 15 years. We are firm believers that if we want to keep our level of wealth and the level of how we live, the standard of living, we need to have innovation, and we need to be able to commercialize that. And we need to have startups that create jobs. You know, we cannot rely on the old successes of Europe. We have to create new successes. It's super important. And the kind of funny thing is Europe has everything it takes. We just don't exploit it properly enough still. I mean, we have the education, we have the money, we have the innovation, we have the infrastructure, we have everything, but we're still not a superpower when it comes to creating unicorns, but we're getting there. You know, obviously, besides trying to make money or wanting to make a return with our investments, we also want to change the world. Quite clearly, it sounds cheesy, but we believe that we have to embrace startups, entrepreneurship much more in Europe. And the evolution that you mentioned in the beginning, when we started, the biggest challenge for a startup was to raise the first million. Now the biggest challenge is to raise maybe a 10 million round. It has changed completely. You have the best and the brightest of the top universities in Europe who want to start startups or want to join startups. That has not been a normal 15 years ago. So there is a paradigm shift happening in the society. There are great returns. European VCs have returns which are on par or even larger, better than the US role models right now, because Europe is catching up and there is a lot of room for everyone that want to move in. And I have to say here, 90% of all the large financing rounds are either driven or at least with the participation of US and Asian investors. So huge amounts of money are flowing to Europe to finance European startups. It's quite an ambivalent situation. On the one side, it shows how attractive European startups are.
Exactly.
And also what we create in Europe, that this is on a really good level globally. It also shows, on the other hand, that we are not exploiting that properly, because the returns are then also flowing back to the US and to Asia.
Right.
And maybe to conclude that, I always say the same thing, but if a European country like the Ukraine needs satellite coverage due to the geopolitical situation, it's ridiculous if we need to call an entrepreneur in the Silicon Valley. The Europeans need to be able to do that themselves. So we have to create those technologies that make us independent of these kind of countries and situations.
Absolutely, and definitely the same is not happening in the US and Asia, that they are receiving a lot of investment from European funds and getting their entrepreneurs coming to Europe to have the returns here. It could be a kind of the next evolution, and not only being able to fund our current successes or our seeds of success, our young entrepreneurs, or even senior entrepreneurs who have great innovation to share, but also being able to start attracting people that wants to start and scale a company in Europe, or from Europe to the world, right? Even better. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Love the perspective, and I think that it's also interesting to you are based in Zurich. You also have here the kind of the Swiss angle. I even think that the first unicorn at the time was MindMaze in Switzerland, or more or less. So I even remember that year when Switzerland at the first unicorn, not sure if 2015, 2016, more or less around that. I was doing some events about the European ecosystem at the time, and I invited a person to speak from MindMaze at one of the events that I was organizing. So what is kind of your feeling and also your perspective on the evolution of the Swiss ecosystem within the European ecosystem?
Okay. Yeah, it's true. We're based in Zurich in Switzerland. Nevertheless, we're a European-wide investor.
Right.
Majority of our investments are in Germany. So let's say 30% of our investments are in Switzerland, and 70% is somewhere in Europe. Much of it in Germany. We have investments in Spain, France, UK. So we're definitely considering Germany and Switzerland to be our home turf, but again, we are investing pan-Europe. We're a pan-European investor. The Swiss ecosystem is even more special than the European. I would not even, but nevertheless, I would not very much separate it because it's so tightly intertwined. We have absolutely world-class universities in Switzerland. There's a lot of money. There's fantastic infrastructure. And the Swiss are notoriously underselling themselves. Recently, there was an analysis of Deal Room about unicorns in Europe, and it turned out that the highest number of unicorns per capita in Europe are in Sweden and in Switzerland. So Switzerland has many unicorns, but we're more complaining about what we don't have instead of celebrating what we have.
Gratitude.
And so there are really, I mean, interesting developments happening. And it was up until recently when somebody went and counted and listed the unicorns that started in Switzerland, that it was not even known to the public how many unicorns there are. So it's interesting. I mean, I would view Switzerland very much in the context of the overall European development. Quite clearly, there are a number of specialties all around the life science industry, which is extremely strong in Switzerland. So that's definitely a very strong cluster there, notably built up without the support of any governmental organizations. So it happened by the market, by the standard conditions, the conditions in the market, and not because some governmental agency was supporting it financially. So yeah, but again, it's really moving fast, and we're proudly seeing that the seeds that have been sown 15 years ago or earlier basically are now bearing fruits. So it's good to see. What we lack is still large growth financing rounds. And that's where we have now started to take again a pioneering role at Redalpine with a large fund that is, it's a different animal than the typical closed-end early stage funds we do.
Right. No, it's good to see, because when we see to the rankings of cities that are getting the majority of the funding rounds, we keep seeing Zurich and Geneva going up in the ranking. Of course, the typical London, Paris, Berlin, and then Amsterdam, Barcelona, Madrid also being there. And then we see the Nordics, and we see Switzerland already being there, competing with Zurich being in the list, and Geneva also getting closer and closer. So I can see that the ecosystem is maturing and getting stronger and stronger. So that's amazing. As you said, you are very passionate about the health and life science spaces, and there are some topics that you really enjoy to talk about and that you are studying, trends that you see. One of them is longevity. Another one is kind of the research around psychedelics and its impact. Maybe let's start with longevity. Where do you see opportunities? Why are you so passionate about it? What do you see in the future coming from here? What are the opportunities out there? What are you seeing? Because for the ones who are listening, of course, Michael sees a lot of decks every single week, talks with a lot of entrepreneurs in the last 15, 16 years with Redalpine, not with the angel investments before. So you are always aware about what is popping up in the market, and you can see trends that the majority of us are not able to see.
Yeah, you're quite right. I'm passionate about longevity and also the psychedelic space. The longevity thing is, to be honest, it's a hype. It's catching on fast. It has been undercover for a couple of years, and now it's getting out, and everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. And to be also very honest, I believe when you try to position the field of longevity on the Gartner hype cycle curve, we're just before the peak somewhere. That doesn't mean that it's not interesting, not at all. But it's also a strange animal. I mean, even longevity means like to live longer, healthier. So it's not just meaning you live longer, but you're still sick. It means like you expand your lifespan and your health span. So that's the important definition there. And then you can say everything which makes a healthy person able to extend the health and lifespan is longevity. So by defining it like that, you can say even brushing your teeth is longevity, which actually is probably true. Also properly eating, exercising, sleeping, all of that stuff is longevity. And then there are some people who believe aging can be treated like a disease because there are biological mechanisms happening, which is true too. So you can really attack some of the degrading processes in your body, in your cells, slow them down or even revert them. That is a good idea. And that leads us into the kind of the catch-22 we have.
Mhm.
We want those longevity treatments to work like drugs. So that means they have to be developed and tested like drugs. That means that costs billions.
Right.
Nevertheless, there is no insurance company to pay the bill. And the consumers who should consume those treatments and drugs are actually not feeling sick. They're feeling healthy. They don't have pain pressure, which would make them open up their wallets and spend really a lot of money on those medical treatments. So I believe in order to come to working treatments in the longevity space, we have to change the paradigm. We have to start to develop treatments for healthy people. And currently, biotech and pharma are developing drugs for sick people.
Right.
And that is a paradigm shift that needs to happen. Don't know exactly when and how this is going to happen. I just see that the way it's being done right now does not take into account who will pay the bill at the end.
Right. So, and you see inside the longevity theme, a lot of innovation coming in for the next decade, right? It could be around drugs for healthy people instead of only the focus on sick people. It could be around topics like sleeping, which is, of course, sleep is one of the hot topics. Sometimes the difficult part is to find out a solution for the problem, because the problem is very well known, and a lot of people in the world can relate to that, especially now with the pace of life, with all the uncertainty, the turbulence that we are living in the last years. And I think that's when we jump also to the mental health crisis and the power of psychedelics. So what are your views on that?
Yeah, to conclude on the longevity space,
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I believe it's the largest market humanity ever has seen.
Okay.
I just believe it's not going to be, or only partially going to be able to address that market and those needs with the tools we have. So we probably need to develop also new tools. And quite clearly, yes, I would say as important as it is to develop treatments and drugs, it's also super important to have a healthy lifestyle, probably even more important than taking some drugs. Now, the funny thing in longevity is that, and I have now attended a number of conferences on that subject, and it's always the same. People just care about the hardware, the body, the cells. People want to stop the cells from degrading, the aging, slow down the aging process, or even reverse that. It's all about the body. You want to conserve the body, but then again, actually, as a medical person and a biologist, you should know that the influence of your mind is super important. It's an extremely well documented effect in the medical history, the placebo effect. So what you believe, what you think, your mental wellness, your mental sanity is super important on your physical bodily abilities and actions and also processes. And so therefore, I would absolutely support or even advocate that we look at longevity in an integrated way. So we target hardware and software, and a way to target the software, the mind, is classical psychotherapy that we have, the classical psycho drugs that we use. But then again, a new field, which is not so new, but it's just re-emerging because it has been suppressed, is the field of psychedelics. And those psychedelics have an incredible effect if you apply them properly. They have been stigmatized quite a bit, and we're in the very lucky position or time that happens to be moved away. The stigma is hopefully getting cleared. We're also in the in Switzerland in the lucky position that we're in a country that has never been so strict and quite liberal about all of those substances. After all, LSD has been invented in Switzerland, and psilocybin has been synthesized for the first time by also Albert Hoffmann in Switzerland.
Wow.
The research in the field of psychoactive substances and also psychiatric treatments in Switzerland is super strong, and so therefore that has gone on for quite a while. Then there are a number of other countries like the UK, like the Netherlands, where you have liberal frameworks where it's possible to do treatments under supervision with medical staff. And obviously there is a huge movement in the US where certain states are now allowing or liberating MDMA and psilocybin. So a lot is happening, and this is a gigantic market. And it's also, I hope, to become very philosophical, that we can use those tools to advance humanity. The reason we are in the position where we are, you could say also the shithole where we are, with the climate and population and everything, is because we have invented technology. Without that, would have never been able to develop as far as we are now. So I believe we will keep inventing technologies, and the technologies will also bring us out of the misery in the future, but only if you use them wisely. And the decision maker is here. That's the mind. And if we are able to elevate human consciousness a bit, or at least prevent sickness and disease from happening, then and hopefully with the hope and help of these kind of psychedelic drugs, then that can be a huge benefit and boon to humanity. That is my belief.
Right, and we are talking all about this because, of course, from an investment perspective, and trying to also to tap into your investment mind for the ones who are listening here and from the community, it's important to identify what are the fields, what are the trends that we can leverage from a VC perspective, and timing is super important. That's why you're saying longevity is coming. It's a huge market. Psychedelics is coming. It's a huge market, but we need to be able to find out the right timing and have a different mindset to tap into that opportunity. Is there any other fields or that you see that could be important in the present or in the future, or it might be too early at the moment, but you are tracking it very closely because you see opportunities there?
Like fields besides the discussed areas now.
Exactly. Those are the two that you are more passionate about.
That's already quite ahead of the curve already. I mean, obviously there is really super interesting stuff happening now. Again, I believe in the field of nanotechnology. That actually, by the way, is an example for a field that has peaked at the Gartner hype cycle, and the hype is over, but now it's coming back, and it's coming back for good. So
great example. Yeah,
I believe that is a field where I see more and more very interesting stuff happening, and material sciences and so on. The field which we are very passionate about is food technology. But that is, like the first generation of novel food stuff has gone mainstream, completely mainstream, overhyped. Now it's coming the second and third generation. And that's going to change our way how we eat and consume quite dramatically.
Yeah, and I know this is a very open question and very difficult to answer, but it's much more a common reflection or a conversation between both of us. It's kind of finding out the timing, right? Because we want to invent the future, and of course, we started by speaking about the importance of developing the European ecosystem, of having more confidence about our capacity or the capacity of Europe to generate innovation and to be able to have the returns here and to be able even to attract the best talents to Europe. We kind of thought about, again, building the future around the areas of longevity, psychedelics, food technology, nanotechnology. We have been talking a lot about it before, as you said, and it's now maturing, and maybe it's the right timing. So being able to balance this, building the future and really generating innovation, but also finding the right timing to start the journey or to start up and to invest on that innovation is a very hard thing to do. Do you feel that kind of challenge when you are making your investment decisions to understand maybe this is too early or maybe this is the right timing, but or maybe this is too early, but if I don't get in, maybe I'm losing a big opportunity, kind of the fear of missing out issue. I'm just picking you a little bit on your investor mindset, because I think it's also important for founders who are listening to also understand the investor perspective when they are building their businesses, because of course it's very important for founders and investors to be able to partner and to align their thesis, right?
Absolutely, super important to get the timing right. And the two topics that I touched on, longevity and psychedelics, I mean, we're still trying to figure out what is the right positioning and the right timing. It's not like we're just investing right, left, and center into these fields. We're trying to figure out exactly what you said. When is the timing right? You know, you have a number of different components that need to be right. Obviously, there has to be a technology which needs to be able to do what you want to do. Then there has to be the society or the customers that want to accept the products and use them. And then there is regulation, especially in the field of psychedelics. It's super important. You can have the best treatment if it's illegal, then obviously right, you have a big issue. And to bank on regulatory changes is a very bad proposition for a startup. So you always have to have exactly a proposition that could happen when the regulatory change happens. But up until there, you need to be able to have a different business model which will keep you alive. Just saying LSD is going to become legal in Germany, that's why I invest in LSD companies. That's not a good proposition right there. So the timing right is super important, and there are several waves. I guess what you mentioned is, I think, what we kind of do sometimes. We get our feet wet in order to figure out when is the field really lifting off. Something, I mean, maybe to just illustrate that, what we are doing right now at Redalpine is we have started to develop our own biomarker panel with people in the company that want. So we take the blood of the people, we test the biomarkers, and we track the biomarkers. So, and then we do lifestyle interventions, and we check, did the biomarkers improve? Amazing. And so we're not waiting for somebody to do it, we're doing it ourselves, such that we are walking the talk and we're getting into the field and understand what's really going on. We're in the fortunate position to do that because we have medical doctors in our team who can do that, for example.
Amazing.
That's one of the great advantages of having a really broad spectrum of people. You know, we have people from Rocket Internet and Goldman Sachs, and we have a physician, we have two medical doctors, and we have a physicist from CERN at our team, and we have biotechnologists. So we have really a super broad, very deep scientific expertise.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the complexities of the health, life science sectors. You need to be able to bridge people from technology, product, business, the medical fields, research fields, especially when we are building the future. And you are doing this from a perspective of just testing, getting to know more as a curiosity for being able also to access in a better way the thesis that come to your door, or also on a venture builder perspective, just to better understand the technology, right?
We don't do venture building. It could occasionally happen as a side effect of what we're doing, but it's not about venture building really. Yeah. We have actually, by the way, it's not only in life science that we do this. We also did it with crypto. So before we started to invest with the fund, we built up a small team that screened the whole crypto space and started to invest our own money into cryptos, just in order to understand everything, what's happening there, just in order to understand the positioning. So we and obviously also, when it comes to plain vanilla software stuff, we have software builders and geeks that understand software. So we always do not want to just look at it from the sidelines. We want to be in the center of it.
Right. Before we go into the final segment of the show, would just also pick your brain in a classical question. Of course, there are podcasts that talk about this all the time, but just some thoughts on after 16 years or 20 plus years, looking at business opportunities, investment decks, founders coming with a dream, to start or to scale a business. What are the common mistakes that you keep seeing again and again and again that founders should be aware of, especially for the ones who are doing this for the first time? And I would even be tempted to say, for the ones who are doing this for the second or third time, it's much easier to see stuff from a observer perspective than when we are on the driver's seat. Sometimes we know that stuff, but we still make that mistakes when we are driving the car. Of course, if we are observing the cars driving, we can see, oh, this is clearly a mistake, and it is not helping this person.
The most classical mistake, which is still being done quite a bit in the Germanic area, is you focus on technology, you focus on innovation, engineering, and you forget about the customer and the market, and that this has to be a product which has to be absolutely appealing, which has to wow the customer. That angle is still not taken care of well enough. Mm-hmm. They still believe we build the best technology and then the market will rip it out of our hands. That's just not the case. That's a common mistake which still is happening. And then the other mistake, which I only can repeat what I said before, it is about the people. So don't compromise on your hires, the people you work with. That's the biggest differentiator by far.
And maybe don't be afraid to have a smaller team and having more experienced people. And when we are talking about experienced people, are not people with amazing titles, but people with a lot of experience that are able to be very hands-on. It depends if we are in the builder or the scaler stage. But anyway, sometimes it's better to really. And of course, as founders, we need to be able to attract the best, and we need to be bold in that sense, and to not feel in danger because someone in the team knows much more than us about a certain stuff. And of course, especially to build the future, we need to be quite comfortable with that, because if we don't have the most intelligent and smarter people around us, and if we don't feel dumb all the time about the field that we are working on, because our job is much more being able to make that team collaborate and be aligned with the vision, and keep repeating the vision and discovering the vision without micromanaging, but at the same time building a platform that allows those people to thrive.
Yeah, somebody told me once, surround yourself with giants and you become one. And I think that's exactly what we have to do. And I think something which is also super important, you need to have crazy people. So people who are really going for the moonshot, and not just people who are telling you what's not working. You have to have also a couple of people who are rooting you on the ground. That's important as well, but you have to have the crazy people.
Exactly. And definitely that kind of mindset or skill, it's something that we can teach people to have. So it's better to really identify and attract that kind of people. Definitely, I love that one. And so let's go into the last segments of the show, where I ask you a quick question and you give me a brief answer. So if you would have the opportunity to have a coffee with Michael Sidler of 2006, sorry, I'm always saying 2016, it's 2006. What advice would you offer to your younger self?
Yeah, I mean, that's also something that I learned from somebody else, and I think it's super important to know that. So if you want to go surfing, you can only do that when there is a wave or when there are waves. So you can paddle around as much as you like, you will never surf. You have to have waves for that. And that means you have to be prepared to catch the wave when it comes. And that's the most important thing you have to do. You have to prepare yourself. Yeah, obviously you can get to somewhere where waves are, but without the wave, you will never surf. So there are extrinsic factors that are influencing your career quite a bit. And by negating them or not looking at them, you just will burn yourself up by paddling around.
Love it. The importance of timing again. What are you the most proud of on your journey so far?
I think, I'm not coming from an entrepreneurial family. Many of my family members, my uncles, parents, are teachers. And I'm kind of proud that I managed to free myself of the corporate wheel and had the courage to really do what I wanted and follow the passion. That is, I think, something that I'm quite proud of. And in parallel to that, also was building up a family. So wow. It's kind of much in parallel, but I'm in hindsight extremely glad that I did it.
Sometimes I feel that I should start with the questions in the beginning of the show, because I always have the temptation to do follow-up questions when I ask these kind of questions, because again, I'm thinking definitely about the component of the family, and we are speaking more and more about that in the show because it's super important for anyone. Not only for the founders, but for the investors. Also, the investors are also founders in a certain way. I'm just imagining when we were speaking, raising a venture capital fund from LPs in 2006. It should have been a little bit crazy. Again, a lot of grit involved and a lot of conviction involved, which are definitely founder skills at the art. And sometimes founders forget that investors also need to go through having their thesis, preparing their fundraising, being able also to serve the founders and serve the LPs, and align the interests of both to build big businesses and also to have the purpose to impact humanity. But less reflections. And next question is, worst advice ever received?
That was a tough one when I prepared for this question. And I guess the worst advice that I received is that you should try to be normal, that you should try to fit in. It's really bad, because if you're normal, you're like everyone else. But if everybody wants to be special, so in order to be special, you must not be normal. And so therefore, no, I'm certain it's the same where you grew up, but at school you have to fit in, you have to be normal. Everything which is an outlier is bad. I would say curate your strange sides, and be not normal, and then you're successful.
Love it. And now into the resources. Your favorite book, and it can be business, non-business, as you wish. That's your decision.
Yeah, you know that I'm around for quite a while, so therefore I also have a classic, a very old one. That's a non-fiction book. It's Stephen R. Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Love
I
it.
think it's a classic, and for me it was an eye-opener in many ways. Then there is one that I'm right now devouring, and this is The Power Law from Sebastian Mallaby. Mm-hmm. It's for every VC and for every investor an extremely interesting book, because it's telling the history of venture capital since maybe the 70s, with all the anecdotes and all the background stories, coming out of Silicon Valley, going to China, Europe. It's super interesting if you see it all connected and in context.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Great one. Just wrote it down to check it. Favorite movie or series?
Yeah, I'm not so much a movie watcher, but when I do watch stuff, then I like smart, maybe even strange science fiction stuff. So like The Matrix or Interstellar, that's what I like. I also like documentaries really a lot. But again, it's not, I'm not watching that many movies. And series, always, I keep watching the first 2 episodes, and then mostly kind of it's history repeating, or at least rhyming.
Exactly. So again, more interested about the future, kind of the science fiction and research. Sounds great. And finally, your favorite podcast, excluding this one.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there are nothing out of the ordinary. I like the Tim Ferriss show. I like Andreessen Horowitz, A16Z.
Right.
And then there is one that I listen sometimes. It's on the field of meditation and stuff like that. It's called 10% Happier by Dan Harris. Wow. I think it's pretty cool, because it has a very sober viewpoint from an American person, looking at the facts and demystifying everything around meditation, but still, basically advocating for it. It's pretty interesting.
Michael, thanks so much for making the time. It was really a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great fun. And let's do it again in 5 years or so.
Exactly. I would say let's do it in 1 or 2, and keep following your updates on what is the future of tech and of innovation. We hope you have enjoyed the podcast, in the sense that we have presented a much fresher perspective about the view of an investor about the future, his passions, the trends that he sees, the right timing, some advice on some of the common mistakes that entrepreneurs do, and of course, always reflecting about our careers, our lives, and what we can do better. See you soon, and keep scaling.